Chapter 4. Hélène was cautious as she led the two into the house. There were overturned cabinets and assorted bits of fabric and papers all over the ground. She doubled back and locked the door behind them.
"Please, have a seat if you would like."
Kosjem and Kagos looked at each other, then sat at the table.
"You did not pick a great time to attempt a trip to Tordek."
"What makes you say that exactly?"
Kagos asked. He was not that comfortable speaking Keigos dialect.
"Tensions are high. I'm surprised you didn't notice this already. You should have seen as soon as you got here that people are agitated. My family here fled to Keigos just before I got here, driven out by others in our own family."
"A civil war in your own family?" Kosjem said. I guess I know what that's like, though. The Bishish family has always been outcasts among the Gregora clan."
"But they stick together, yes? What if your family itself split in half?" Hélène said.
"Don't know. I'm the only one in the family I still talk to." Kagos opened his mouth but closed it again and stayed quiet.
"If I were you, I'd head back to Keigos and not look back,"
Hélène said.
"The Gregorans are out for blood right now."
"Why? What on earth changed in the past few weeks?"
"A meeting between Gregora and King Keigos."
"What exactly happened in the meeting?"
Kagos asked.
"No one's sure, but Gregora responded by increasing security near Tordek. Many fear that Keigos will try to take Avadi, Passé, or Elam completely."
"Those towns are chaotic. It would simply inflame tensions to go into any of those. If he wants a military action, his best bet is a place completely loyal to Gregora. Hakutek."
Kosjem scoffed and shook her head. "King Keigos is not going to try to take back this area by force, not without provocation."
"Provocation will come, whether it's genuine or not,"
Kagos said. "And what exactly is that supposed to mean?"
"It means that someone wants us fighting. It will happen. It's just a matter of when, not if."
Kosjem slumped into her chair. She felt something press into her lower back. What is this?"
"They think the house is empty. We should be safe until morning."
Kosjem laughed bitterly. "What are you talking about? If they're attacking your family, destroying the house would be logical, and they'll know someone is here if they see the lights." Hélène smacked herself in the head. She ran to the windows and drew the curtains and turned all but one of the house lights off.
I'm so sorry. I really wasn't thinking."
"I guess a professional entertainer doesn't need a strong sense of self-preservation," Kagos said.
"My self-preservation instinct is strong enough, thank you,"
Hélène said.
"It was just one lapse in judgment."
"Well, I don't think they're on their way right this second. And if they are, the lights going out would draw their attention anyhow. Do you think we should be so loud?" Kosjem said, her arms folded tightly. Hélène looked out a small gap in the curtain. She moved to another part of the house, then again and again. Finally, she walked upstairs.
"Here, I'll set a bed out for the two of you."
No. We are business partners, not lovers,"
Kagos said. "Quite. Kagos is useful and pleasant enough, but I would prefer not to be too near him when I sleep." Kagos looked at her.
"What's that supposed to mean?"
"That you're a man, nothing more."
"Uh-huh,"
Kagos said.
"Fine. I'll stay in the bed here, and the two of you can sleep on opposite ends of the room,"
Hélène said, and laid out the beds. None of them were able to sleep for a few hours, but all eventually drifted into a restless sleep. The next morning, Kosjem was the first to wake. She went to the kitchen and tried to find cooking ingredients. The kitchen was a mess, but not just from normal use. There were papers, trash, the odd article of clothing, and a broken statue or two in addition to the normal mess you would expect to find in a kitchen. She was surrounded by visual proof of the family's hasty departure. The reality of the story she had been told the day before was beginning to reveal itself. Even though it would be difficult to carry ingredients with them, the family apparently did just that, as there was very little left in the kitchen that could be used for cooking. There was one thing left over, however, and the irony of the situation hit Kosjem: flour. There was a scattering of yellow grass flour. Vinkins used it occasionally for sauces, but its most prominent use was in bread made by Mtete. There was a stone oven in the middle of the kitchen as well, and while they were also not uncommon in Vinkin households, it carried the distinct aroma of bread. Keigosans were generally less involved with Mtete on the colony than Gregorans. There was one notable Mtete village in Keigos, and some of them had their own trade routes that took them through the Keigos as well. But the larger concentration was firmly in Gregora, with 5 all Mtehite villages as well as Mtehite families in Bali, Belos, and a few families in Umtronkos and Pentak, though the larger cities were often not safe for them, be they Keigosan or Gregoran. The coastal towns in specific could be very dangerous for Mtehite. Bread,
I know it's not normal, but bread goes really well with soup.
Alen had woken up and stood behind Kosjem, who snapped her head toward Alen. This trip just gets stranger and stranger.
I'm going to try to secure passage back to Alam and Laostek.
Oh, my cousin lives in Laostek. I thought you were from Salheim.
No, I only live in Salheim for a month or 2 out of the year while I train with the drummer.
Kosjem looked around the kitchen. This place is a mess. Is your family all right?
They were driven out of their home, so I can't imagine they're doing very well,
she said, and pursed her lips.
Things have been building slowly for the past few years. I should have expected something like this. I was stupid.
Are your family going to go to Keigos?
Probably. They're probably on their way to find me right now. I can't deal with this,
she said, and tears rolled down her face. You're my favorite soloist of the showcase, did you know that? Alen twisted her mouth and looked at Kosjem.
All that seems kind of pointless right now.
Are you going to be at the next show?
No. Coming here always keeps me out of the second show of the season. I don't have enough time to practice,
Alen said, wiping tears away on her traditional pezshif. She'd changed before talking to Kosjem that morning so she would look more presentable to her guests.
I will have to think about what to do with my family now.
If you could ever use help from a fan, you know who to ask, Kosjem said. Alen smiled faintly. I came here for business. I will have to continue on to Chordek.
No!
Alen almost shouted. She covered her mouth. I'm sorry. Please don't go right into the capital. Things aren't safe for you there. Well, I certainly will be careful, she said. She pulled out a pin with a cheap print of Gregora's crest. It was only slightly modified from the original Taldui crest, but it would help her get by in Chordek, at least until someone heard her speak or saw the way she walked.
Switching sides, are we?
Gagak said as he walked up beside Kosjem. No, I just have a better sense of self-preservation. Speaking of which, I could use some quick training.
What kind of training would that be?
I won't be able to change my accent before I make it to Chordek, but maybe you could show me how to hold myself. I don't want people identifying me as Keigos Hite on the street. I'll wait until they're ready to give me money before I do that.
Doesn't your customer already know?
Yes, he does, so I don't need to talk to anyone else. Just help me blend in.
Rightio. Just make sure if you do talk, you get lazy with everything. Na becomes nai, ta becomes tau, and don't ever let a talk or doc slip your lips.
I don't say that anyhow. That's low class.
If you say so.
I don't need speech therapy. I told you I'm not going to talk.
That may be hard in Chordek,
Alen said. Gagax nodded.
All right, first things first. You have to look like you don't care about anything. Even the most uptight people from Chordek, like the doctors, will still look as if they don't care about anything or anyone else.
Like relaxed? They don't seem relaxed to me.
Not relaxed, apathetic, indifferent. It's a very different thing. People here are not relaxed in the slightest. That would likely be Belos.
Fine, just tell me if I'm doing it. Kosjem bounced a little as she walked and tilted her head to the side. She twisted her mouth as she looked at Gagax.
Ouch! You look like you lost a bet.
Kosjem tightened up. Stop that, I have to get this right. How about if I walk more like someone from Pentak or Umtronkos or Bali?
Bali. They tend to keep their hands in tight. Not much different than you, actually. The difference is they hunch more. People in Salheim have rods jammed up their ass.
It's healthier to stand like that.
Healthier, maybe, but you look uncomfortable all the time. That's usually the first thing people notice.
I am uncomfortable all the time when I'm in Gregora.
Point taken. So, yeah, you do need to relax yourself just a bit. You may be able to pull off Bali. That means you don't say Baliki, though. You say Fedku in the morning and Gatoku in the evening.
That sounds so childish. Under the sun and under the star? Do people in Bali just not know what time of day it is, so they need to announce it all the time?
You'll never pass for Chordek, Hite, so you need to try,
Len said. Kosjem nodded. She put her right fist on her left shoulder and bowed.
Yeah, you might not want to do that in Chordek.
I've seen Gregorans do it all the time.
Yes, the polite kind. The kind that might like the way things used to be. Catch my meaning?
Kosjem huffed. This was more difficult than she imagined. Even if she pulled it off, there would be people who recognized her. Len seemed to read her mind, because she produced a small bottle. What is this? Kosjem said.
Hair bleach. One of the old Brokti men in Bali bleached his hair once, and it goes in and out of fashion there all the time. That would almost instantly tell people that you were from Bali.
Why do you have it?
I wanted to be in one of the plays. I was going to play in Mtete.
I have powder to lighten my skin, too. Kosjem raised an eyebrow. Okay, how do I use this?
You need to be completely sure that you don't get it in your eyes. Other than that, leave it in until your hair is just a little lighter than you want, then wash it out.
Is the water even working here? She asked. She turned on a tap and there was a sputter, but water started pouring out. I guess so. Kosjem dipped her head into the sink. She held her eyes closed and pressed the blade of her hand against her face to try to keep the water and bleach out of her eyes. She suddenly felt a sensation she was not very fond of. It's burning!
That'll happen. Keep going until I tell you.
Kosjem seethed and grunted until Alen finally said,
Good. Now wash your hair out.
Kosjem dunked her head under the tap again. She kept the water running for a while. Eventually she snapped her head back out of the stream and water sprayed the kitchen wall.
I'd be a bit upset about the mess you made if these had been different circumstances, but here we are,
Alen said. Am I ready? She asked. She looked at her hair and yelled, It's too light!
Even better.
It's temporary,
Alen said. Why do I look burned?
You don't notice how much darker your skin is until you put it next to something light like that,
Alen said.
My hair got light once from being in the sun all day for about 2 months. My skin got darker too, so this is normal for me,
Gagax said.
Mostly.
Kosjem glanced at Gagax, then looked down with her lips pursed. I've been to Chordek 100 times. Why do I need to hide myself now?
Things can change quickly, Gagax said.
I'll need to head back to Salheim soon.
Kosjem looked at her. Thank you. You've been very good to us. I hope you can make it back safely.
I hope you're still able to make your connection, even though I think it may be worth leaving alone right now.
I can't do that, Kosjem said and bit her lip. I have workers to care for, not to mention my own bills to pay. Of course. Kosjem looked around the kitchen. We never got to make breakfast.
We can get some sweet stew in Chordek,
Gagax said. Now look who's being optimistic. Gagax smiled faintly.
Let's move out.
This is a companion story to Diamond Spearhead, available on Amazon now. As strange as it feels to say this, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Especially share. That's more important than the other two.